seconds.
Mere seconds.
Are we on?
Yes.
Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 372. I am your host, Tony Schaefer, and this is June the 24th, 2020. So here's an idea. On June 30th, why don't we all just have like a New Year's Eve party, and we'll just act like the first 6 months never happened, and we can just carry on from there. What do you think?
I like the next day it's going to be the same.
Yep. Oh, damn it. There's always somebody ruining it.
I thought the Canadian was supposed to be an optimist.
No, they're just enjoying our pain, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
Just enjoying our pain.
From the front row. So we were going to talk about advanced technology mobility and all that fun stuff and green tech and advanced tech. And as you can see and hear, I am not alone in this, I don't know what. I had a lot of words and none of them were appropriate. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to say my co-host this week is our friend, Mr. Russell Frost.
Greetings from the bottom left corner of America, listeners and viewers. Beautiful San Diego. It was typical June gloom kind of day. We had a few hours of sunlight in the middle of the day. It's kind of cloudy and foggy, but it's probably a horrible 68 degrees right now.
I feel so bad for you.
I love it when everybody on the show hates me because I live in paradise. I love that because otherwise my life is miserable.
Area.
I thought they paved that over for a parking lot.
They did. And let me tell you, living in your car in a parking lot, not so good.
And then they put up a billboard that said "Save the trees."
Yeah. So hello everybody, we got a great show for you, and I'm going to step back now.
Yeah. So I want to just go ahead and take this time to tell everyone, if you are watching or listening to the show, go ahead and give the show a thumbs up. Go ahead and if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, go ahead and hit a subscribe. Do it now before you realize that you don't like the show. So I'm going to move on.
Wow. Timing is everything.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot we were recording that. I shouldn't have said it. But anyway, what I'm going to do is kick it over to our friend in Boulder, Colorado. He tears down and repairs and hopefully puts back some EVs and hybrids. And he is our friend, Mr. Paul Guzik.
Hey, glad to be back. I was gone for a few weeks there. We've been super busy here fixing broken cars after they came out of quarantine. But nice to be back.
Did the cars have the virus? Do you have to?
Well, surprisingly, older hybrids, if you don't use them for 2 months, they're not happy. And so if anybody is still in quarantine and has a Prius or an older hybrid in the garage, go start it up, go drive it around once or twice a week, because it's probably going to cost you money if you just let it sit.
That is excellent advice. I do remember hearing people talking about this, and even just going on vacation and leaving the car. Yeah, just leaving the car in the airport parking lot for 2 weeks or something. Yeah. I'm sorry, Paul. I was talking over you.
No. Just regular cars should be driven too during these times.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's great. If anyone knows what he's talking about, there's a good chance it might be Paul. I mean, the person who really knows what he's talking about is not on the show right now. But in his place, I would listen to Paul.
And never is.
Hey, well, if you have an old gas car and it stopped working, then time to trade it in and buy something better. Don't go get it fixed.
Paul's got some of those
too. Don't get it fixed. Just leave it. Do what they do in California. Just set it on fire and walk away, right? Isn't that a thing?
Oh, it's bad for the air.
No, that's just police cars.
Yeah. Wow.
Painted black and white, bad. Just write police on the side.
Oh, jeez. All right. Woo. Moving on to the man least likely to set a police car on fire. He is our friend up north, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
There is all sorts of useful advice that comes from this show. Let me tell you, all sorts of interesting ideas that you can use at home and not get in trouble with. It's an interesting. So right now, I'm sure the lawyer is trying to get through. So please don't follow what anybody says on this show. Just.
I learned a long time.
Russell's got the company phone, and there's the lawyer. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are not responsible for your bail. No liability here.
Yes.
What she said.
Yeah. So now I'm going to kick it over to our friend reporting from, I believe, the center of Chaz, Oregon. He is our friend Patrick Connors.
I'm not exactly sure where Chaz, Oregon is, but it is a nice sunny day here. Got 12 kilowatts of PV on the roof, running my meter backwards today, so that's lovely, just lovely.
Wait, did I get that wrong?
Chaz is in Seattle, Washington.
Oh, it's a Seattle thing. Damn it.
Yeah, because the other one is Paz, and I don't know that it happened yet.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, really? Was Portland trying to do one? I didn't know that.
Ah,
That won't happen, man. Not the cops there.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
Well, the voice of reason, who just set me straight there, was our friend. No, not you. Our friend. I went from West Coast to East Coast. He is Mr. Casey Green.
Hello, everyone. So I'm trying something a little new. I did a brief intro to the Tesla software updates. Just got done filming that because it's Wednesday, and apparently that's my day. So.
All right.
It was much warmer than Russell had to deal with.
Wow. Wait, I'm waiting for Georgia to sit back down so that I can throw it over to her in full view of the camera. Taking it back
that
over
was
to the West
turning on
Coast.
the fan because it is 100
Wow.
here in beautiful rural YOLO. Welcome and enjoy the show.
100? What do you live in Siberia?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Kind of would feel pretty good actually.
No, Siberia's had their first 100-degree day.
Yeah. That's
And
100
the whole
degrees north of the
planet-
Arctic Circle. So yeah, that's our running joke. Whenever, wow, God, it's hot in here. What is this, Siberia?
yeah. I mean, those are the kind of temperatures that I know Mark will never have to deal with. I mean, Mark, right? It probably never gets above what 40, 45 where you are.
Well, not in his
Yeah.
basement.
And then Georgia has
if it does,
100.
my igloo tends to melt, so I'm glad it doesn't.
Oh, God.
Some days I'm just kind of like, parents, Jamaicans could have gone to London or Canada. I mean, he went to America. I don't get this.
Right. Yeah, and it's always hotter. It's always hotter in the U.S. because our thermometers have bigger numbers. See, and that's why it's always hotter in the U.S.
I thought it was because of the police cars that were burning.
Yeah.
Everything circles back to the police.
That might, burning. I got to write that down. Burning. Police.
I'd like to remind everybody we have no liability if you listen to any of these people.
Are you saying we didn't start the fire?
We have no liability for Death by Dad joke either.
Today's special guest, Billy Joel.
Yes.
No.
Well, before we get started in the news, I want to give a shout out to our new sponsor, Billy Bob's Bail Bondsman. If you have recently been arrested while protesting, give a call to Billy Bob's Bail Bondsman. Okay, so let's jump in. I'm going to go ahead and start with Georgia, who's got some really interesting news on the aviation front.
Well, the nice thing is, just because we're all scared to fly, even if we have to fly, it doesn't mean innovation in aviation is going out the window. And it looks like progress is being made to increase the ability to have electric planes. Now, how fast will it be rolled out? I don't really feel we have a clear sense of when, but they are going to be taking a lot more steps to improve their record on pollution, and I think that's a great thing. Now, corollary to that, which it's not in the list, this does not mean don't wear your mask.
Wear the damn mask.
Wear the
Please.
damn. Yeah.
Wash your damn hands.
Yeah, so second half of the century, if we want to see green aviation, for zero emission aviation, put on your mask so you can survive for the next, hey, even 6 months. How about that? Just try it for 6 months.
I thought this was a fascinating article.
Yeah.
And it brings up, and I'm not going to use the phrase that so many people in the media would use for this, but one of the interesting effects the pandemic's had is obviously it's killed air travel. Mm-hmm. So what all the airline companies right now are doing is retiring tons of old aircraft, getting rid of them.
Yeah.
And that opens up the possibilities that, while none exist right now for commercial aviation, that they will at least be looking at more efficient, more clean, possibly smaller, more regional aircraft, which electric aviation could fill that gap.
Right.
Yeah,
or hybrid was one of the technologies they discussed in there that I thought was pretty interesting, where you use a traditional method for takeoff, and then when you're gliding, it's on electric. That was a pretty interesting idea.
As well as running on battery on the ground. I mean, geez, just those engines. They use the engines to move around. Put motors in the wheels, shut the engines off. I mean, all you're doing is moving from point A to point B.
I do think interesting is that they don't really talk about the fact that most airlines, especially the big commercial ones, run based on economies of scale. And I do wonder, would it be in reach of the average consumer air travel the way how it has been if they do go to these smaller, more efficient planes? Because that means that they're either going to have to run more flights, which means more crews and more costs for that, or they're going to have to try and see how big they can build them to carry the same amount of passengers. And would that break the efficiency of the new airplane? So those are the questions I had at the end of the article. I'm not sure.
I fully agree with you, but at the same time, I get the feeling that we are trying to address the supply side only. Mm-hmm. To kick it 80 years, is this trip really necessary? And I think we're seeing a lot of technology right now where a lot of people are saying, you know what, I didn't need to go on that plane because we'll just Zoom, or we have Microsoft Teams, or we'll just Skype, or we'll use this, or we'll use that. And maybe the result of all this is the realization that people just don't need to fly so damn much.
It's true.
Yeah, and look at this show. We're all over the continent.
That's true.
Don't tell me. And the only reason we're all over the continent right now is that we're afraid to fly. Normally, before the pandemic, we would all fly into a central location and sit in front of different backdrops. I just want our listeners to know that.
I would like to see, actually, not so much the commercial, but cargo. If they could get cargo flights to be greener, I think, to me, this mostly talks about the commercial flight, but getting cargo flights to be greener, that would be huge, because that's a big number of our pollution is shipping things to and fro from all over the earth. And local businesses, local manufacture is one aspect of it, but getting cargo transit itself to be a greener monster would be wonderful.
And even then, make overnights, make air more expensive than it is. I'm sorry, but your Amazon's not going to be overnight. We're going to put it on a train, and we're going to find a better, more efficient way to get it to you, and it might be a few days.
Give that one a shot.
So
we're spoiled.
There's a reason why everything is trucked today, and the trains are not used for commercial deliveries at all.
Yeah. Right, but if we had a real carbon tax, that wouldn't just be a cost they could ignore. Then that would really drive them to find greener options.
Yeah.
Hurry up with those electric semis from all over the world.
Well, and with the logistics stuff Amazon's doing. I mean, they could have regional warehouses that they train stuff to the warehouse, and then they deliver the last 50 miles with an electric van. You know.
Yeah, I watched a piece on using really large drones to airship stuff straight from China to the current U.S. ports. But
that's a huge battery to fly a drone over the Pacific.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And they were talking using solar and like just different shaped, because like right now the cargo planes are just passenger planes with no seats, and so they were talking about using a lifting body, and I was like, well, more power to them if they get it to work, but it is out of the box thinking that we need to generate new solutions.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, any progress is good progress, so I'm going to take it as a win that we've got the retiring of the old planes, and I mean they're at least putting the money into development, and that's critical because getting them to spend that cost for the R&D, that's a big step right there.
Yeah, I did some stuff looking all the way out, looking at battery technology and how it's expected to evolve. And by 2040, you can do coast to coast. By 2070, you can do international around the world, and that's just assuming a small increase annually. But if there's some big breakthrough, that game changer, that could really accelerate that timescale.
Yeah. Well, speaking of green transportation, but now more on a personal scale, Paul is going to talk to us about a company that makes some really cool bikes.
Yeah, there's a company called GreyP, which is, I guess, a subsidiary of Rimac, which is the Croatian EV supercar company, which has some really cool stuff on paper. I don't know if they've actually shipped anything, but their bicycle subsidiary has, I guess, the equivalent of a super bike. It's a really cool EV bike with all kinds of cool technology. The only drawback is it starts at $8,000, but it has built-in video cameras and it's connected. The coolest feature, I think, aside from being electric drive, is if it gets stolen, it tells you where it is, so you can send the cops to go get your bike. Because if you spend $8,000 on a bike, you want to make sure it doesn't leave your hands, at least for very long. Anyway, it's a really neat bike. I doubt any of us listening or participating here will ever own one unless we win the lottery. The top one is $17,000 for a bike.
Oh,
Jeez Louise.
But for the people with lots of money, go buy one. Make a statement.
Well, yeah, the Rimac cars are $1 million cars. So hey, 8,000, 16,000. That's a bargain.
That's a bargain. But it is neat that they have all this connectivity and live video, and you can film your rides and all that. I don't know, neat stuff. Kind of out of the league for the average person, but as we know, cool technology always trickles down over time, and maybe we'll see some of that stuff in affordable bikes as time goes on.
So will this fit in the car, so that when you've got the car at the charging station, you can?
But you can charge your phone from the bicycle. It has a USB port to charge your phone.
Oh,
cool. Yeah, I have a e-bike. Yeah, it's a Trek with a Bionics system. It was a whole lot cheaper than that. I bought it used, but it's great. Whenever we go for a ride as a family, I'm the one that has to carry all the gear because I'm the one with the electric assist. My wife and daughter, but it's easy because you can set what level of assist you want, and so the rest of the family didn't want a e-bike. They'll just ride regular bike, and so that's fine. It's a lot of fun.
So you've got like the picnic table, the cooler, the beer, everything on the back.
Yes.
You got saddlebags?
Yeah, I was gonna say saddlebags or pull
saddlebags. Yeah. Okay. No, I don't have a pull cart. Yeah, but
that'd be cool.
Yeah, might get one though. Yeah.
So they didn't want an e-bike, and then Patrick shows up rested, like, "Hey, that was a fun ride."
Yeah. Well, they have heat stroke. Oh.
I really like the spare battery feature on this one, the GreyP, and I don't know, Russell, because last time it was about a bike, we were we were on opposing sides of whether or not the bike was too fugly to be believed versus cool and looked like, you know, a nice Indian motorcycle, which I appreciated. But granted, it does look a lot more to me like those high-end bikes for racing.
Yeah.
And I mean bicycle racing, not motorcycle racing. But if I had 17,000, okay, with taxes, probably about 18.5, to just throw away, even though I can't ride a bike for shit, I would probably buy that just on the grounds that that looks like a fun vehicle to ride. And I really like the features of the spare battery, the auto lock feature, the internal GPS, so you don't have to put up your, you know, Google Maps on your phone and stick it to the dashboard. Where am I going now? That's actually really nice. I don't know about the whole camera to capture your ride. Whatever.
But your maps are always
I wonder if it will capture your wipeout and upload it to YouTube automatically. It'll be like a collection of.
Nah, it should be on TikTok, and it picks like the right music and then slows it down right as you beef it. And then repeat.
It actually does, Paul, have a feature built into it that automatically records on a 20-second loop what's been going on. So if you forget to hit record during something really cool, you can go back and grab that video.
Yeah.
Or if a car hits you, you've got video evidence of it.
Yeah, you got the license plate that smashed you.
You have to hope that you're not unconscious for more than 20 seconds. Otherwise, you're just recording the ground.
If your phone has IGs,
if you're not paying the monthly subscription, then it uploads to YouTube to your greatest fails.
Exactly. That's like a Croatian blackmail thing, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, the Croatian hackers will hold you hostage till you pay them.
Yeah. I mean, Rimaac's an interesting company. Those their R1 and their C2 are amazing vehicles, and as I think Patrick said, they start at $1.2 million. The C2, the electric supercar, is $2 million. Okay.
Have they actually sold any yet?
Yeah.
Or delivered any?
Yeah, because Richard Hammond crashed one.
I was just going to say, known here, the other famous thing for Rimac was that Rich Hammond crashed one and got seriously hurt. Was it at Nürburgring, wasn't it?
I think so. Or somewhere else. That in Europe, yeah.
Sometime last year, I remember doing the report, or somebody did on the show. But whatever, you know, you're probably not.
To do a supercar, you've got to have some pretty cool, innovative engineers. And if those same engineers did the bike as a side project, it's probably really cool too. That's why.
Hard on his wife, all that crashing he does.
Yeah, I think we too many rich people if they can afford a $2 million car.
Yeah. Well, you know what I want to do.
If you buy the car, do they give you a bike for free? Like you buy a $2 million car.
Yeah, you should.
You can probably haggle that with the sales.
I just want to see somebody put a bike rack on a $2 million supercar.
So I got two segues here. The first segue is I want to segue into talking about Rad Power Bikes. So if you don't have $17,000, Rad Power Bikes just released the Rad Mission for $999 plus tax. So it's $1,000. But so as you can see, this is a little more common, average-looking bike. You know, it's the kind of bike that people aren't going to look at you twice to say, "Oh my God, that's a really cool bike. I should steal that." You know, you can just be on your way.
Bike thieves will take anything.
Yeah, they'll probably take it. But so here's an article in the Next Web, and they're talking about this bike, and what I'm going to do is stop sharing. And what they've said is one criticism is that it's kind of it's actually heavy, so it's about 48 pounds, which is kind of heavy. But then they're comparing it to other e-bikes that can weigh between 65 and 75 pounds. But that's what they said.
That's insane.
Yeah. And so what they're saying is the low end, Rad Power Bike's low end Rad Mission, even though it's $99, they have said that if you're in the market for an e-bike, you might seriously want to consider this because it's one of the lesser expensive on the market, but can provide a decent amount of assist and decent range. The battery is swappable if you want. So just, kind of a point counterpoint. I mean, we have a really cool, awesome bike from GreyP. And then we have a little more affordable mainstream bike here from Rad Power Bikes.
That if you put it on your bike rack, it might bend the forks.
Still kind of heavy, but with the assist, you think it might not be so bad. You might not notice.
I mean, as with most things, if you want something lighter or smaller, you're going to pay more for it, and it's been that way with mechanical bikes forever. A standard chromoly bike weighs 35 pounds, just the frame. So that's not kind of a crazy weight, especially for a bike with a power assist.
So the Dresign, one of the first bikes in 1817, didn't have pedals. It weighed 48 pounds.
Look at that.
Wow.
Going up from there.
Was it pulled by horses?
No, it was made of wood, and you pushed it yourself.
Oh, ooh.
So it was a scooter. It was literally a scooter.
Like a body scooter, yeah.
Right. I remember I saw one of those. Because I've mentioned I like old movies. And there was an old Buster Keaton movie where he's riding one of these bikes, no pedals, and you're literally he's sitting on it in his feet.
Oh,
the
velocipede, yes.
Yeah, I love those.
I love that word.
Got a picture there.
Nice. That will destroy the dignity of anyone even standing next to you. Okay? I don't
know if in 1888 you were the coolest guy on the block if you had that.
Right.
That's true. That was cutting edge tech.
You were the Elon Musk of your time.
That was the GreyP of 1888.
Now,
is it GreyP or GreyP?
Adjusted, it was probably the same $8,000.
Yeah.
Probably was the $8,000 of its time as well.
I would love to ride some of these rads. I have a few friends, acquaintances, as it were, that have had them, and I've heard really good things for inexpensive electric bikes. They've gotten very, they provide a good value. Okay, so really cool. I mean, again, it's a great option, and you don't have to spend $3,000 to $8,000 to get a decent electric bike, and that's the whole point with Rad Power. And yes, Rad Power, you can send us some bikes for review because I'd actually like to ride them and talk knowledgeably about them. Yes, that's me asking.
Yeah, I mean, heavy as it is, that the assist, you probably don't even notice how heavy it is.
That's true. I mean,
there's
honestly,
also...
I think a lot of times people complain about it because they just like to complain. You're not on a racetrack where every ounce matters. Calm down, people. Just get on the damn bike.
Well, let's be clear. I'm not a small adult. Okay? So the difference in 3 pounds or 10 pounds on the bike, not a big deal in my world. Okay? It's just not. And I get it. Like if you're Lance Armstrong or some other bicycle famous person whose name I don't know, that 8 ounces probably makes a difference. And if you're in the Olympics or the Tour de France, that's huge. If you're me and you're going to Albertsons for a 2-liter Diet Dr. Pepper, probably not a big deal.
Or if you're on the 10th floor with no elevator.
That's a big deal.
You're rolling downstairs. I stayed a bike messenger. I know about it.
That is not a good scenario.
One more bike thing I want to talk about.
Please, Paul.
In the mid-range, there's a Indiegogo thing called the Baby Maker bike, and I don't know what the name means, but it's only about $1,500, and it's pretty damn cool. So check it out. Just Google Baby Maker e-bike.
Or maybe you should be careful Googling that.
Yeah.
Don't Google it at work.
Put safe search on.
Yeah. But it's a really cool looking bike. And the cool thing about the Baby Maker is it doesn't look like an e-bike. They've hidden all the technology. It looks like a regular road bike. And they've got this sneaky way the battery tube goes down the angle tube, and you can I guess, pull the logo off the front stem and pull the battery out if you have to replace it. But it's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, it looks great.
And Russell, San Diego, man.
Are they?
Yeah.
There's a lot of beautiful.
And they've raised $12 million on Indiegogo to build this bike.
I'll have to look into that. There's a company called Faraday that I've talked about on the show before that I love. They're just gorgeous bikes, but they're expensive. I mean, they're $3,000.
And no relation to Faraday Future.
No relation to Faraday Future. This actually is a built, delivered for years product. It's a gorgeous bicycle. And again, it looks like it doesn't look like an e-bike. Not all of them do, at least. A lot of them have the stuff hidden. So finally, I guess is sort of the coda to this sort of electric transportation thing. This week it was announced that Segway, the invention that was going to change the world,
it's gone off the cliff.
They are gone. No more Segway.
Did they redesign any cities for it?
They were shutting down, and there was lots of threads about like what. And I here's my opinion, and you guys chime in afterwards here. Way too expensive.
Dorkosaurus.
It was actually right. It was the Dorkmobile. Okay, like there's no way you could be cool on this thing, even though it was cool, and they weren't actually
that. If you're a ball cop, you'd be cool.
But even then, you'd look like a complete like, and they weren't actually that easy to ride. It took a little bit of skill to kind of to get it. So, for $5,000,
the guy who bought the company like go off a cliff riding one because he couldn't drive it.
Oh God, no! I didn't hear that.
Yeah, there was an
rich guy in England bought the company and was driving on the cliffs of Dover or something and drove off the cliff and killed himself.
Oh my God!
Right, so it's not Dean Kamen, the CEO of the company who originally owned the company. It's the guy who bought it from him.
Yeah. What great PR for a company.
Yeah. I love the bike so much I bought it. I bought the company.
And then drove off a cliff.
And then I bought the farm.
If they had the automatic video recording thing,
exactly.
The GreyP bike does. At least we could have seen his last few seconds of terror. No.
Yeah. Then we would have found out that it wasn't an accident. It was a big anti-Segway coming after him.
Whoa! Angry children chasing him with sticks.
Hit the emergency brake.
Oh, that's sad.
Well, there's a reason why the Segway was the joke chase visual gag for multiple TV shows and movies. So,
and they still didn't design any cities around it.
Nope, did not design any cities around it. Oh, that was a hell of a lot of hype.
Some viewers may be too young for that. So they said they were going to redesign cities around this device before we knew what it was going to be, and then they unveiled it, and then nobody redesigned any cities.
Everybody looked at it and said,
and probably very few people bought one of these.
Correct.
They were $5,000.
Yeah, there are several cities that have Segway tours. So if you're in a city that you haven't been to, and for whatever reason you don't feel like walking around the city, you could do a Segway tour.
And if you're somewhere where no one knows you, who cares if you look like a dork riding around on a Segway tour? So.
Right, yeah. And renting one for a couple hours in the afternoon sounds a whole lot better than buying one.
Or walking in 100-degree heat.
Yeah.
There was I know Lancaster, where I used to live, had a Segway tour company, which is really cool. I know DC, I know lots of places have them, and it's actually not a bad idea. Maybe you're visiting and you don't want to put 10 miles on your sneakers, but you don't mind doing it on a Segway. That's cool. It's a good way to get around and do that. Of course, you're wearing a helmet and you're looking like a dork, and there's a guy in front of you, like hoping he doesn't lose you as you go through the crosswalk.
And you hope he didn't have a burrito for lunch?
But he's 7 feet tall, so if he doesn't go too far between the light, you can catch him.
Honestly, if you had a burrito for lunch, you're basically just adding some propellant. You might get a little move a little faster. That's about it.
I think that's another show title. Burrito propellant. While I write down that show title,
burrito propelled Segway.
Propelled Segway. Thank you, Paul. I like that better. We're going to turn it over to Casey, who has a story about something not quite as gaseous.
Well, that's the plan anyway, because the current ones are very gassy.
I thought we were anti-emissions on this show.
So there's a UK company called the D2H Group, and they want to make tuk-tuk gliders.
Yeah!
Yeah, so you may know them as rickshaws or any other three-wheeled vehicle. There are some companies out there already that make electric ones, but they want to make a nice open format. That way people can come in with their own steering, their own motors, their own batteries, and just make it more efficient, because these things are often two-cycle engines, and if they're not two cycles, they're still terribly polluting. And so if you take them electric, the maintenance goes down, the safety goes up, and it's just the right thing to do for the world.
So are they open sourcing the plans, or what's their...
That's how they made it sound, but they're not like open source free. Like, hey, here's the gliders, put it together. That's what I got from the press release.
Development partner, or they'll give you the
development partners
the
where they
basis.
use. Yes.
What would be interesting is if they combine that with the small electric bikes that are in a number of Asian communities that allow you to do a battery swap at the local store. So they have like 2 or 3 packs. They're like the size of, maybe 2-liter size. And what they do is they have handles on them. They plug into the vehicle 2 at a time. And then when you're out, you just drop by your corner store, pull them out, plug them in, grab another 2 full ones and use them. And I always thought that was an ingenious plan, especially for a metropolitan area that could have many of these retailers selling the recharged batteries.
That's a great plan.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think
4 or 6 of these on
Gogorov.
What's that?
I said I think the company that did that was Gogorov, I think was the name of the company.
Right.
That sounds familiar, yes.
Yeah. Like, partner with them, and then you, like you said, you get double the amount that you put on a motorcycle or a moped, and you're ready to go. That's a good partner.
Mm-hmm. This is one of those uses of this technology that in America we're kind of blind to because we're so car centric. Yeah. The rest of the world, scooters, little jitney things, bicycles, all kinds of
mopeds.
Like, cars are for other people. Like,
yeah, so this is all over the world: Africa, Asia, even in Europe.
Absolutely. There was a company that we worked with a long time ago called Nocaro that made a little solar-powered light bulb. And the idea was that, especially in Africa, which was their focus, that a lot of people use kerosene for lighting because they didn't have electricity and they weren't on the grid. They were nowhere near the damn grid. So they were using electricity at night or they just weren't awake. So what these little solar powered bulbs would do is you buy one and then they would donate one, but it allowed people not to live in little tiny houses full of kerosene fumes, dangerous kerosene fumes, burning stuff that we did, millions of people that didn't need to be burning stuff when we had this other solution. This is a great use of that technology. Yeah. I love that. We need electric scooters.
Yeah, and it adds another wheel because most tuk-tuks are 3 wheels. Very few of them are 4 wheels, so it gives it even more stability. Tony will put a picture in here when he does the...
there we go. Yeah. Tony, unfortunately, his computer died, so he's trying desperately to get back on.
Oh, uh-oh.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, anything that can get... The 2-stroke engines are the worst. So anything that can get rid of those... please bring it on.
I mean, and look what happened to the air quality in these cities when our current situation happened. Everybody around the world went into lockdown, and when these emissions weren't in India, like some people were able to see mountains that they couldn't see from their home before. Like they were there the whole time, but with the smog, you just couldn't see them. And
stargazing at night and just the views of it's and just the ability to breathe, have cleaner air. And one of the things that we've seen is if you have a PM 2.5 in your environment, then that makes you even more susceptible to COVID. And if you do get it, you're likely to have more lung damage or more likely to die. So anything to help improve our environment is good all around.
And as bad as it is on the adults, it wreaks a havoc on a child's system. It reduces your life expectancy, reduces your quality of life, ability to learn, perform. So,
and as a nation, as a region or a nation, we have an interest in keeping our citizens healthy. It costs us less if our people are healthy. So less asthma, less respiratory problems, all of that works. That's why, I guess for lack of a better way of putting it, these edge uses for electrification are so important. Electric scooters could save tons of emissions. I don't want to say more than cars, but a lot. And be available to more people that I can't afford an electric car, you know?
Yeah, and then when they idle waiting on a passenger, there's nothing coming out the back, and they're not wasting anywhere near as much of the fuel source because the biggest draw is when it's actually locomoting.
Right. Yeah. Vehicle setting and idling is just, I mean, especially when it's a school pickup zone and all the parents are idling. Or today, the vans for ADA, they have to run the engine when they're doing the motors to lift the chairs up and things like that. Now you have these people in vulnerable situations, and let's just have a tailpipe running right near them for several minutes. That's just, yeah, we need to find better solutions.
Absolutely. And electricity provides one of those. And speaking of that, we're going to talk to somebody on this crew, namely Paul Guzik, about replacing ICE with EVs. And Tony had a link. I'm trying to see, but right, the EV crate motor, which a crate motor, the ICE companies make motors and they just sell them. Chevy, for instance, will give you a big block V8 or something. You can buy just the motor. And now we're starting to see, we saw Bosch do this for electric bicycles, for instance, create just a off the shelf. Here's an electric motor. You attach it to a frame and you can be an electric bike business. Paul, what do you know about EV crate conversions?
It's a neat idea. In the ICE world, people have been doing it forever, but it's really hard to implement.
Okay.
And it's relatively easy to put a motor in a car and a battery pack. However, all the other crap in a car, the power steering, the power brakes, the air conditioning, the heater, that's the tricky stuff. So if you don't care about power steering, power brakes, heat, air conditioning, you could do it, but the amount of effort it takes to make all that other stuff work is hugely monumental. If you have to pay a shop, not that we would do it because we have no time, but if we were to do it, the labor cost is about 30 grand.
Ow!
So it's a great hobby if you like to tinker and have a lot of time on your hands, or it's a really, really special car. Like let's say you have a 1969 Porsche 911 that never had power steering, never had air conditioning. That could be a good candidate for it. But if you want to take anything semi-modern, in my opinion, it's a waste of time unless you're filthy rich and or have a lot of time. So if you want an electric car, go buy an off-the-shelf car, a Tesla, a Leaf, whatever, because they've figured out how to make all that stuff work on the back. And the reason it's difficult is in an ICE car, the gas engine's always running, so there's vacuum to run the power brakes. There's a pump turning to run the power steering. There's a pump turning to run the air conditioner. Electric car, when the car is stopped, nothing can turn. There's no belts or anything turning, so you have to power all those accessories with a different electric motor or some other all-electric way to do it. So if you dig into it, it's pretty difficult. Rich Rebuilds did a neat video on, so you want to convert an ICE car to an EV, and he kind of got into it, how much time and money it would take. And it is not a cheap undertaking. So that's my... The idea is great. So like, let's say you have a very simple vintage car that was very simple to begin with, then maybe a crate motor makes sense. VW Bug from the 60s or something like that. But anything after about 1990 is going to be really hard to do.
Yeah, so I've mentioned it before on the show. I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association, and there are several members that have done conversions. And some of them say, that was fun and I'm never going to do it again. Others really enjoy it.
Or they say it costs 3 times as much money as I thought it would originally take.
Right. Yeah, so if you're going to do something like that, make sure that you have a vehicle that someone else has preferably already done a conversion, you can find out. Are you going to need a custom plate to adapt this new electric motor to the transmission, and how are you going to do that? There's a whole lot of things Paul mentioned in there.
Where do you put the batteries?
And yeah, exactly. And you don't want to have the batteries just in the back loose. So if you get into a crash, they come flying up and kill you, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing it smart and that you have all that stuff figured out. And if you haven't done it before, find some local club where you can get advice. And there's a couple Porsche conversions in our club that are really beautiful. And they've done clever things like, okay, well, the heating system doesn't work, but I've got these 2 hair dryers, and I figured out where to mount them, and they blow hot air in, and I can defrost the windows now. And so, just little things like that you have to figure them out if you want to have that. One guy, I forget the name of the company. It had what looked like the Audi logo on it, and I said, "Oh, nice Audi," and he was like, "Don't call it an Audi," because this was the I guess Audi was a union of several other companies, and this was one of them that predated that merger. And he was very not happy that Audi took control over the whole thing. And I was asking him about it, and it's like, it's just really beautiful. And he said, yeah, the one bad thing is when you take an old car and you do this conversion, it's great that it's electric, but it's still an old car. And it doesn't have airbags, and it doesn't have all these other amenities. So, make sure you know what you're getting into.
Yeah. A good website is DIY Electric Car, and there's plenty of forums on there of people who have done conversions. People ask questions, and I agree with Patrick. If you have a car you want to convert, find someone who's already done it and kind of see what they used, how they did it, because you could spend literally hundreds of hours messing around trying to make this stuff work. So the crate motor is a good idea, but for very few selected. Maybe the crate motor put in the Tuk Tuk glider, and then you can do wheelies in that Tuk Tuk.
See? And that's exactly where I was going, Paul Guzik, because I lived in Pennsylvania for 13 years, and one of the most popular hobbies there is, oddly enough, dirt track racing. And all of those things, or I shouldn't say all of them, but a good portion are powered by 650 Suzuki engines. You know what I mean? And they're going around a track all night long, and the smoke is horrible. I mean, I used to photograph these races. If they were all electric, if they had a crate motor, they just drop in. Perfect solution for that. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to buy a silly little midget race car, but there's neighborhood
They don't
vehicles.
need air conditioning. They don't need power steering. They don't need all the stuff you want in a normal car.
They don't need 1,200 miles of range. They need to go around the track 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, and that's it. It's done.
Yeah.
But there's lots of edge uses, neighborhood vehicles, for instance, where people could use these prefab motors and battery packs and possibly build their own little thing that wouldn't involve, a cool Oldsmobile Delta 88 conversion. That sounds like a great idea, but all of a sudden you're pushing
it
a
will cost you
35
$70,000 to do it. So
yeah,
it's worth $70,000 for your old Delta 88.
See, Russell, you didn't go where I thought you were going to go. And when you were mentioning Lancaster, Pennsylvania, I thought you were talking about doing Amish carriage conversions.
They don't use electricity, though, right?
Right.
Well, charging would be an issue, of course, but
so they do use solar power.
Yeah.
Selectively, like not in the house. But they'll have their electric fences are often solar powered.
But what about the Capo Camaro?
I'm sorry?
I don't think the Amish have Camaros.
No, going back on subject. The Capo Camaro, which was the Chevy built with the crate motor, that they made a nice dragster out of it. They made 75 of them or something. You bought the whole car. It had everything you needed, power brakes. It was still very much the drag racing association.
NASCAR.
NHRA.
Not NASCAR. NHA. That sounds right.
NHRA. Yeah.
Yeah, NHRA. There we go.
Yeah. I mean,
the moral story. If you want to convert an ICE car, do a lot of research because it ain't just slap it in place of the gas engine.
Paul makes a super good point, and there's tons of hobbyists out there that have converted, whether it's a Ford Ranger or an Escort or whatever. Rather than inventing the wheel, talk to somebody who's taken a vehicle that you can go buy and who has experience and say, okay, here's what you need. Here's how I did it.
Here's my transmission bell housing template that you're gonna need.
Well, Tony, what do you think?
Well, I feel like I missed a whole chunk of the show, which is because I did.
I was going to try and be cool about that. Did you go somewhere? I didn't see that.
Did you reboot?
Oh, God. Yeah. I don't know. My apologies. My computer apparently froze again. I had to do a full hard reboot and bring it back. So.
Max coming in the fall, or you could go PC.
I know. I'm running with I think a mid-year 2015. I'm almost due.
Maybe an EV crate motor would help.
I need a crate motor. I think that would probably work. So what I want to do real quick is I want to remind everyone that if you want to read all the news you're reading, be sure to check us out online. First of all, we do have our Facebook page at facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Leave us comments and suggest news items, or just like the page, and you get notifications. Patrick sets up the buffer, and it drops news items 2-3 times a day, at least once a day. He does an amazing job with that. So keep up with us on Facebook. If you do use Flipboard as a news aggregator, Philip Barclay and I throw those news articles into our magazine, and I'm there right now, and I'm looking at 20,859 viewers to our magazine. If you don't, I get nothing from Flipboard, but it's where I consume most of my news. You should look into it and subscribe to our magazine. And if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, I hate you. I will find you, and I will click that button for you.
Wow, is that kind of hankering? What's going on there, Tony?
Jeez, I'm sorry. Do give us a subscription, and you'll be notified. Hit the notification bell every time we put out a new video. Even if you don't want to watch full videos, we do now start tabbing the videos. So if you grow tired of one story, you can just go to the very next story in the video, or you can wait till the shorts come out and 6 to 10 minute individual news items. That's it. Russell, anyone? One last thing?
I got one last thing if you guys, if we have a minute. Yeah.
All
right. So here's a quick, I'll be quick about this. The West Coast utilities have offered up a plan to put charging up and down Interstate 5. And so in 2011, the Oregon, Washington, and California, these 3 states worked together to do the West Coast Electric Highway. That was primarily with CHAdeMO charging back then. And this new one, they're talking about putting in charging stations every 50 miles that will be used for freight hauling. And so it's going to start out with smaller vehicles, and then later for full-on electric semis, which I don't know what the charging standard will be for that, but they don't plan on installing those any time in the next few years. So we have time to figure that out. Is there going to be a new SAE standard, or what will it be for semi-trucks? And it's the whole 1,500 miles of it, all the way from Bellingham, Washington, down to San Diego, California.
Yeah, let me see. Oh,
and there's a lot of freight trucks go up and down that corridor, so
yes,
great.
So I've got that here for you, Patrick. It is this exactly. So that is a very long route. There's the entire west coast of the United States.
Yep, Tijuana to Vancouver, BC.
Indeed. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is that is great. And even when we were talking about aviation, talking about how much pollution is put in the air by freight And this is just another example of reducing the pollution and getting our freight from place to place a little cleaner.
Yeah, and you have to have the infrastructure in place to make it viable. If someone made a truck today with no place to charge it, well, it's not going to really do any good, right? So this is cool that we're planning, and I-5 is a great place to start, and then the plan is to have I-60 and I-80 and several other offshoots on the next phase.
Oh my God, I-80 pretty much goes like coast to coast, doesn't it?
That'd be really cool.
Bay Area to Pennsylvania or New York,
or something like that. Yeah, I mean that's most of the United States.
I took I-80 home from California.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think I think it's just I-80 within that state in these.
Oh, okay.
So it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, not yet. Maybe
Right.
Yeah.
Once California does it, then if it leads to Nevada or wherever they should be.
Once people in Ohio realize that the goods they ordered from California got stuck at the border because the trucks can't continue, they'll say, "Hey, let's put some chargers in."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and maybe even the cost of shipping will go down because maybe fleet costs will go down. Who knows?
Right.
We'll see where this goes.
Well, and just the maintenance of diesel trucks compared to the maintenance of an electric truck. I mean, diesel engines are big, expensive, and hard to maintain. So,
and fuel's expensive.
Fuel's expensive. Not as expensive right now as it has been, but it will go back up. And if there's a way to charge at the truck stop while the guy's sleeping overnight, and then away you go the next morning, that could be really cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
until they get the flying drones delivering stuff.
Yes. And then you just need to look up and just constantly duck.
Dodge.
They'll just drop, like the little claw will release over your house and drop your package.
There's nothing that could go wrong with that.
No, it's
new stupid world.
Bulletproof right there. Yeah. Well, let's do some shout outs and go home. So I'm gonna, I kicked it off with I think Patrick in the first place and finished with Georgia. So I'm gonna start with Georgia on the shout outs. Georgia, what's going on?
Shout out to everybody still managing to be sane right now. You're the real MVPs.
All right.
I think that's a good one.
Yeah. I think so. Casey, what's up?
Got a quick short coming out tonight or early in the morning about the latest Tesla software update. You can find that at youtube.com/CaseyGreen. That's KACEYGREEN. And later on, probably towards the weekend, I'll go into my deep dive. And
have you ever tried eating a...
I will then go into... She was trying to talk, and I stopped her. And then she tried to talk anyway. So anyway, I'll go into my deep dive into the software and try and find everything that Tesla didn't put on the update list, which will be fun.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions on where to find a feature in the Tesla menus, ask Casey. Just write in the comments there. Hey, where's this at? Even if it's not what he was covering in the video, he'll interact with you and let you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Casey. And Paul, do you have any new cars for sale?
We sold a bunch actually in the last couple weeks, so our inventory's a little light. We're starting to buy again, but if you're in the Boulder, Denver area along the Front Range, check us out at boulderhc.com for service and repairs and boulderh.com for our used car inventory. And call us if you need advice on what kind of car to buy or not buy.
Or convert, for that matter.
Or convert or not convert.
An emphasis on the not parts.
Yeah. Buy something that some really good engineers spent a lot of time and money developing than trying to do it yourself. Unless it's a really classic, sentimental car to you.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Patrick, you gonna close out the show and then go start Paz? Is that the plan?
So I've plugged the OEVA a few times. I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and we're on Facebook and Twitter. Give us a follow, and I also occasionally blog at carswithcords.net. I'll see you there.
Yeah, you will. Very soon.
Yeah, Russell just left a nice flaming comment. Yes.
That comment wasn't bad.
No.
He took his comment, he put it in a paper bag and set the paper bag on fire.
It's
That's
already
what
been
he
deleted. You won't see it. Don't
It's on his porch.
did. Yeah. Mark, how's the view up there?
I'm with the Waterloo Region Electric Vehicle Association. You can follow us on Twitter at WREVA Group and see what we're up to at any point. And we are certainly looking forward to getting rid of some of this stage 2 lockdown we're in. Maybe by the end of the summer. Maybe we'll be able to have our big National Drive Electric Week celebration, we're hoping, in early October. Doesn't look all that good, but we're still hoping.
On behalf of America, we're sorry because we probably are. It's probably
No, we got the border closed. Don't worry.
Yeah, the border.
They locked it down tight early. It's all on
I'll
them.
trap this in here.
Yes.
As you can see, I was able to get a haircut yesterday. First time in 3 months.
Wow.
So that was good.
And let me tell you, those Canadian Border Patrols, they're pretty serious. If you've ever watched that series, is that on
Don't
Netflix?
bring food into Canada. That's what I
Pretty
learned.
much,
Never
yeah.
bring food into Canada.
Actually, I'll let you know of a little story that happened this week quickly. As you know, on the West Coast in the U.S., Americans have the ability to travel through British Columbia to go to Alaska. Those people are still able to travel through Canada to get to Alaska. But what they found, what they found out was that a number of Americans were just telling the Border Patrol that they were driving to Alaska, and they would spend a few days in Whistler or other tourist spots. They were found out, and a number of them were charged $1,200 fines for lying to the Border Patrol. So I would be careful about that if you're thinking of just coming to Canada for a quick vacation.
But it was 1,200 Canadian, so.
Still cheaper than a cruise. Russell, bring us home.
Me?
Yeah.
It's up to you, man.
I actually have a shout out. Coming up the first week in July, shortly after July 2nd, I am going to be posting on the What Drives Us channel at youtube.com/whatdrivesus my experience at the BMW Performance Center. Now you're saying, what's the BMW Performance Center? Well, let me tell you, located in the heart of downtown Thermal, California. And if you think Thermal, California is a hot place in the middle of the desert, bingo, you got it right. Right at the butt end of the Coachella Valley. Let me tell you, it's going to be warm. But BMW has an amazing driving center there where they give you education. There's an academic course where you sit down and learn how to drive, and they take you out with a driver, and then they give you, there's a crazy part, they give you like an M car to go out on this track and roll.
Wow.
So I'm never one to pass by a chance for a little self-edification. So I'm going to go up and educate myself, and you, all of you who watch and listen, will get to share in that experience. Look for that probably around July 4th, because you're not going to be out at the fireworks.
Obviously.
And as always, I want to thank Michael Manring for his amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. youtube.com/whatdrivesus. Again, that's the important thing. Go there, please subscribe, please suggest it, share it with your friends. Your help there is vital and important, and it costs you nothing. So thank you very much. Mr. Schaefer, back to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks to everyone on the panel. Thanks to our listeners and our viewers for spending some time with us. And that's all we've got this week. Unless, of course, you want to mention that Tesla ranked dead last, the J.D. Power Initial Quality Survey. But make sure to tune in next week and find out what drives us.
Striped helmet,
Wow.
Nice
Get
knife
a
in the
show
back
like
of the
that.
Wow.
Terrible.
Wow.
Snuck
Man.
that in.
See you next week, everybody.